small business owners that are going through some troubled times. So as part of that meeting yesterday, we put out the announcement. I do want to say, though, there are no applications live at this point, but Courtney provided that web portal, the cv.business.nj.gov. That is where we are funneling all the information. So it's really important. There's some FAQs there. There's more detailed information writing about the products that I'm going to do a high-level overview of, but it's definitely a portal that has a lot of information, and as applications come up live, all the announcements are going through that portal. There's also a chat bot feature as well, too, so for anyone who's looking for additional information, it's really helpful to kind of go and be able to talk to someone instantaneously. And also our website will be updated as well too. So we have to be mindful about the level of help that is going to have to go out. So we're looking at different ways of utilizing the cloud and the portals, and we don't want to have the grant application site crash the first day it goes live. So we're trying to be mindful of that information. So I'll just go into what was approved yesterday. The governor's already signed the minutes, so it's okay to talk about. We're going to try to get the applications out as soon as we can. And our staff has been working nonstop in order to do this. So, we're trying to really help all these small business owners. So the first thing that we have is a small business grant, in which is an actual grant for any company that's going to be service related and was really truly impacted by this executive order that the Governor Murphy put out, basically. So it will be a $5,000 grant. It's going to be based for anyone who is from 1 to 10 full-time employees would qualify for this, and service industry is the qualification. So basically, if you have, 2 full-time employees, you're eligible for $2,000. The maximum, like I said, though, would be the $5,000. And we only have a $5 million pool allocated towards this. EDA is essentially doing this off their balance sheet, so we didn't get an appropriation. We're hoping that we can get some philanthropic funds or maybe some kind of CRA credits to go towards this so we can expand it. But at this time, it's kind of limited with the $5 million. And we want to see how impactful this first round will be. I think, the demand is obviously out there, and we know what we have to help and who we have to help. So, but it's just really getting this pool a little bit more allocated. And we've been trying to really push for that through any kind of connections we may have through CRA credits and foundations. But like I said, that application will be going live, I would say, early next week. But I don't have a definite date because we have to test everything out still. But it would be targeted towards 1 to 10 full-time employees.
Christina, would you mind if I just ask you, is that physical retail spaces, or is—
Yeah, so no home-based businesses. We did allow nonprofits to be eligible, but there are no home-based businesses that can qualify for that. You'll find that it's a general theme among the products that were pushed out yesterday. I did notice in our board comments, though, some home-based businesses were asking, how come with contract-based businesses, it creates a challenge for financing. But as far as the grants, they were not included as well, and maybe potential for second round. But at this time, again, with the limited amount of pool, it was just, there's a lot of businesses in the state that are registered in this typical from 1 to 10 employees. So that's why unfortunately, this is just going to be like a drop in the bucket, I think.
So does this include salons?
Yes. Service-based would be salons, barbershops, nail salons, anything like food and beverage related. It's really, I think they're going to basically focus on your NAICS code too. So hopefully people were registered properly. If they're not, the applications essentially will be able to still assist those people. It's just because I know just from working from small businesses, sometimes they don't register properly. So.
Do we have a couple of questions? Let's see. How will FTEs be calculated? Can part-time employees be combined to equal 1 FTE?
Yeah, so that's a question I have to get an official answer for. So my general answer is it's called a full-time equivalent. And I believe it was based off of 35 hours a week. But what we're going to be doing is looking at your WR30 that you file on a quarterly basis. That is going to be the report that they're going to utilize in order to determine how many actual employees you have. So you should be able to pull up that report. I mean, we're going to do the check ourselves, but that's how the determination would actually officially happen.
Okay, and is this question for me, is it means tested, or is it, you know, do you have to prove that you've had a decline to qualify?
Oh, no. We're not doing like SBA does. No, we're not doing that. And you can get this grant and still come after financing through EDA or SBA. We're not going to do any kind of exclusions related to it.
All right, I have one more question. Selfish one. For the nonprofits, do you have to have an FTE? Or
Yeah, you have to have at least one. Yeah.
Okay.
So part of the, basically it's your self-certifying that you've been impacted by this crisis. So it has to be related to loss of revenue, could be you had to shut down, and obviously if you were affected by executive order, it's an automatic. So it's really just a self-certification that we're hoping people can, be honest about. But yeah, you have to have at least one full-time employee to qualify. Okay. Are there any other questions related to the grant?
It looks like there's a question. What is the start date of the applications?
Yeah, so that's still to be determined. We just basically said the week of March 30th. I literally had a call with senior leadership before I jumped onto this. We talk every day about like, where are we? How are things going? They're going to test it out over the weekends in regards to, is it user friendly? I mean, because as you know, with government, sometimes these applications cannot be. So we're trying to be very proactive to make sure that this is a simplistic, no documentation, no tax clearance, no kind of like burdensome process, because we know the demand is going to be so high. We just want to be able to kind of get people in, get them approved, and move on from that point. We're looking at also doing direct deposits because as you know, we're not in our office either. So we're trying to look at like, how can we automate this? Kind of like how with Department of Labor, their unemployment is either direct deposit or through a gift, like a debit card now. So, there's still challenges to that, but I don't have an official date. But like I said, that portal, that cd.business.nj.gov is where all our updates go. And, we'll be pushing out our information too through press releases, paid press. But I just think the demand is so high. So please, just keep staying tuned and just stay on top of it, because every day it's constantly changing, everything we're doing.
One other question, Christina, was do you have to promise to retain employees?
So I don't know if they're going to make you self-certify that or not. The intention, obviously, is to not lay off people, but I don't know if that's part of it, to be honest. I don't have an answer. I mean, I'll look into that to make sure. And then any update would be on the portal related to FAQs that we're doing. But I mean, the intention is to really help the employer so it can benefit the employees behind the grant. That's what we're hoping for. But we did not make that part of the loan either, which would be a working capital loan, which I can highlight those details once we're done questions for the grant.
Okay. And then there was one other question, and then I want to move on. Doesn't mean we can't come back. Service industry businesses that qualify, how are the industry classification NAICS codes chosen? Seems that childcare centers, co-working spaces, acupuncturists, those kinds of companies don't qualify. Am I misunderstanding?
So the question came up in our board meeting about child and daycares. The NAICS code, I think it's like an 82 or 80 something it starts with, but we are looking into making sure that daycares would be eligible for something like this. Technically, you would still be a service provider, and you would also have service chain related people who provide like coffee cups to that cafe that's now closed too. So it's going to be, but like incubators, no, they're not going to be eligible under this kind of a grant. And I guess it would be in regards to the tenant that somebody would be asking for, or I'm not sure how that would work, but it would depend on the tenant that was occupying that space, but the overall incubator would not qualify.
Is trade retail eligible, clothing stores, for example?
I don't want to say yes when I don't know officially. I would think they would be, but I don't want to say officially yes or no. We'll make sure we update our FAQs to make sure that this is really specific. And not just that too, I've been asking for a product guide to walk people through, like, how do we do this? Where do we go? What do I click? Making sure all that information is available to everybody too. So we'll be working on getting all that together for everybody. We're thinking at probably doing like recorded videos, and then people can potentially look at that video or maybe a PowerPoint and then have a guide to work from.
Great, thank you, Christina. I think let's move on to the next program so we don't run out of time, and then at the end,
Okay.
if there's more questions.
Sure. So the next product is a 0% working capital loan. So we basically opened the pool up a little bit broader. It would be a 10-year loan. At the first 5 years, you're not going to have any fees or any interest related to that. But technically, this should be like a short-term working capital loan, because that's what most of the businesses we've been speaking to are experiencing. So this would be for any company that is making less than $5 million in revenue a year. And it would be any service related industry. We're not niching down that, but it's for getting available that working capital that we've been hearing that a lot of people, need help with their payroll, and, we don't know when we're opening the doors. So this isn't an option for people. It's a $10 million pool though. So, the request can be up to 100,000. But remember, again, like, just because it's 100,000, you should still determine, like, what is your need. You want to make sure that, we would still have to look at financial statements to make sure that you could potentially repay the loan once you're up and operating. We've relaxed our requirements that it's only a minimum of a 600 credit score. And the collateral requirements are a little bit looser as well. So you don't essentially have to document that you have dollar for dollar collateral. You basically have to put up something, but not everything, which is kind of rare for EDA to do. So it's a good thing. Again, you have to be in existence for at least 1 year though, to qualify for this. The ask can be up to $100,000, 0% interest rate, and pretty flexible underwriting. So it's a good option for people. I don't know if people are really familiar with SBA, but SBA, you have to get declined first before you can even qualify, and it's a 3.75% loan that they would offer you. So we're just trying to give people a little bit of variety for depending upon what their needs are. And also basically what we're doing, and I'm kind of just going to move into the next thing, is we've given our CDFIs, which are our local community development finance institutions, some basically tools, whether it was through a grant, and then we also did first loss position guarantees for them as well, so they can create better products for small business owners to be able to utilize during this time. So since we just approved that, they'll start putting their programs together as well to basically have more variety in working capital loans for small business owners too. I know UC-EDC, which is up in North Jersey, they released a product a couple days ago and had to shut it down because it was already oversubscribed. It was a $15,000 working capital loan, no collateral, very 2% interest rate, and within hours it was already oversubscribed. So, with us making these resources available to the CDFIs, it allows them to create more products that potentially can get out to different communities that, EDA just can't do it all, essentially. So that was something else that we approved at our board meeting as well. So I will be able to share those products as they come up with you, if that's possible. And then, you can help kick it out to the members who can essentially share it with their downtowns too.
Couple of questions on, I think, both of those, and particularly the EDA one. Is it first come, first served?
Yeah. I mean, basically with the grant and the loan, it's going to be a first come, first serve, but not just that, just because, you know, you're first in and your products or your application for the product might not be completed, that's going to create a problem. So it's the people that can move forward the fastest are essentially probably going to be in that queue to go to underwriting and then close. So part of what we did is, you know, uploaded a checklist for what you would need for those loan documents. That should be accessible at that portal so you can see the necessary documentation, but it's pretty much the basics as far as like, you know, tax returns, and for a loan you would need a tax clearance certificate and other, like, you know, documentations to just kind of prove, like, you know, your formation. So having those on hand would help benefit you, and you can upload all those to the application.
Okay, is that on the FAQ so I can get that in the notes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Ooh, things are moving. Another question is, should it not be available to all businesses that have been mandated to close under governor's order?
The grant?
Yeah, I guess because you said everybody's available for the loan, right? So I guess.
Yeah, we didn't exclude anybody for the loan, but the grant, like I said, it's only a $5 million pool statewide. So there's just, I think this is just round one. And then, you know, if somebody wasn't able to qualify under that first round, we're hoping that, you know, we can get some more funds to put towards this. And again, it's 5,000. I mean, I think that might cover somebody's first month of expenses, but it's a small lifeline.
Yeah. People on the chat, is there anything else you want to ask about the loan program before Christina moves on? Okay. Beth, go ahead. Just ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, just to bring this back, our downtowns have so few of the trade type stores as it is because of other issues. Mostly our downtowns have become service oriented. So I'm hoping they do include those few trade type of clothing stores and boutiques or things like that in the grant.
Okay. I mean, I would have to look. I don't want to tell you yes, they do when I don't know officially. I just don't like putting answers out there if I don't know the exact answer to it. I think that they do, but I just want to make sure.
Can I ask one quick question, Christina?
Yeah, sure.
So an SID as an organization or management corporation, would they qualify for the loan? Just, you know, anticipated funds not coming in for people not paying their assessments or whatnot?
And you're registered as a C Corp?
Nonprofit.
So, and what type of nonprofit are you? A 501c3 or?
4.
I believe 4s were in there. The only one that I know that is not in there is a 6A, because the chambers, we follow the SBA rules regarding that.
Thank you.
But I will add that too. I'm going to make a list of questions that I need to get answers for. I do appreciate this. I mean, I'm sorry that I don't have answers for everything. But as stuff is coming up, it's good for me to hear this. So that way I can make sure it gets added. Because I know
that's why we do this, Christina. So
yeah,
that we can share
because I know this is not going to be the only time this is happening. So you're a 501c4, okay.
And that would be for the grants and the loans, presumably.
The loans, we didn't, yeah. You're still nonprofit. We didn't, the loans we left very broad. We didn't do a lot of restrictions. So yeah, but with the grant, a little bit different in the sense because it's such a small pool. Like 5 million is really, like, you have cities like Newark just announced their program. They put a 2 million into one city. So as you're hearing, like Trenton's doing their own loan program for up to 20,000. Patterson, I think, is going to be releasing something. I've seen those kind of floating around, but everybody's kind of looking to do their own thing as well. So I know 5 million, like to us, like to me, obviously it's a lot of dollars, but when you look at the impact of this to businesses, it's really like, it's already going to be oversubscribed. Like I wish we had more. Unfortunately, we don't though.
So bids, get those applications in ASAP.
Yeah, so I was just telling people, like, you know, anytime I was talking to a local city, just anybody who fits into that 1 to 10 full-time employee based off their WR30, like kind of just start being ready, like, hey, this is a potential grant that's going to be coming up, just so they can be on the lookout for it. And then really, like, what is their need? Do they need the financing? If not, I mean, because like, there's so many products out there, it's like hard to really streamline it is what I'm finding. So like TD Bank, they have some stuff too, like some products with no collateral. You can get up to 150,000 if you've been in existence for 1 year, but if you haven't, then you can qualify for up to 50. So there's just, and then with the CDFIs, they're going to be rolling out all their products soon too. So there's going to be a lot of options for people.
Any more questions on the loan or the grant?
Just one small question. So we have a lot of small folks that I'm wanting to give them guidance as to how, should they just work with their accountant to quickly digest what's there and try to put together the application? Like, what would you say would be the best, you know, obviously they're already overburdened with what's on their plate. And so I'm just wondering, you know, what the best guidance is.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So it really would depend on the capacity of the small business owner. Do they understand their business in the sense of what their need is? Because some of them don't, right? So some of them are busy running their business. They rely on their professionals to do that. So if that's the case, then they should probably sit down with their CPA to kind of gauge, like, what is my need? Do I need 2 months of operating expenses or just one? Like, so I don't think there's a one size fits all for this, unfortunately. So it's really like depending upon your need. You know, unfortunately, what I don't want to see is like, you know, they see the 100,000 for the loan, and unfortunately, it's like they're not going to have the revenue. I don't want them to allocate that 100,000 to eat up something that would be eligible for somebody else as well. So it's kind of like gauging, and I think business owners holistically just probably, now that, you know, people have a lot of time on their hands, unfortunately, it's sitting with that CPA or talking to them and just saying, like, you know, what's my situation? I just don't think there's a really like I'm sorry, I don't have like a set answer for that though.
Well, that's okay. That's helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, we're here. So like, we've been taking our calls too. So I have the small business services at NJEDA.com, and I have a team of staff that really helps with that too. So we're constantly keeping updated, like, you know, what's available, who's this, like, so if you wanted to talk about some of those TD products, you can shoot an email there, and then we'll connect you to who that person is that can walk through what those products look like. And they actually are doing applications over the phone too. So, you know, anytime you feel like you just want to ask a question for the small business owners or anybody, or as a, you know, SID, if you want to connect them to us, that's how you would do it at this time.
So another question that came up, and I think, well, there's some discussion dialogue on the thing about, you know, if bids apply, are they boxing out their small businesses? And guys, we can have that conversation maybe at the end. But there was a question, if a business qualifies for another grant program, for example, the Newark grant program, would that exclude them from the EDA?
No, we were very mindful not to do that to people, because we know the, you know, the demand, like I said, it's just, it's on another level, really. It's very concerning. And unfortunately, I think some of those businesses that were on that cusp and already struggling, I don't know if they're going to make this. And I don't know if our grant is even going to be enough to really help people that were already struggling prior to this. So this is really like some crazy times that we're going through. And it's unfortunate. It's really sad when you're talking to these business owners and hearing, I mean, this is their life, you know, and just me, or locally when I go out to, like, you know, because I have to get out of the house because I'll go crazy staying here with my kids. So, you know, I talked to my local pizza shop, and I was like, you know, how are you doing? And it's just scary. It's very scary for them. And I couldn't even imagine, like, you know, putting all this blood, sweat, and tears into, like, you know, your baby essentially, and then something like this. And unfortunately, if you didn't plan for the future the way you should have, like, it's kind of, how could anybody have planned for this, really? So it's just some troubling times, and we're just trying to do the best we can to help some of these people. But I just think, you know, realistically, it's going to take some time to recover. And also, I know with the federal government too, that package got approved yesterday. So I've been working closely with SBA as far as like, what does that mean? Like, what's happening? They expanded some of the 7A restrictions to where it's going to be available to banks. So it sounds like there's going to be a lot of opportunities coming from SBA in regards to different loan products. So as soon as I get like information with that and clarifications on things too, I also want people to know that if you need help with technical assistance filing those SBA documentations, you should reach out to your women's business centers and also the SBDCs as well. So they offer technical assistance when it comes to filing those applications. They are paid through SBA to provide those services to you, and the federal government's actually giving them additional funds to offer those services. So
Christine,
again,
can you repeat those two that they should go to?
it's so they're called small business development centers. There's actually 12 of them throughout the state. I have a list. I can share that with you and the women's business centers as well for contact information if that would be helpful.
That would be great. Yes.
Okay, so I'll share that with you as soon as I get off here. But they're women's business centers. There's 2 of them. There's the Women's Center for Entrepreneurship, which is up in Summit, I believe. And then you have LAEDA, it's LAEDA in Camden. So you have North and South covered in that regards. And then there's the 12 small business development centers are associated to colleges throughout the state. And there's 12 of those as well. Again, all throughout the state. And they are the ones that should be really helping that technical assistance. EDA has taken, we're gonna be doing some little side contracts well with like the Hispanic Chamber, African American Chamber, Veterans Chamber, and also Rising Tide to offer those same services to people, just because SBA, like, I mean, their sites are crashing. Like they had like almost like a mapping tool for what product fit you. It's crashed, it can't come up again. They're getting inundated with just questions and technical assistance. And so I just want people to know, like, these are who you should be utilizing, because there's literally only 3 people that work for SBA that can address those questions. So their partners are who they rely on. And I know I talked to SBA today too, and they're looking to score to be able to really like step up and help some of these small business owners as well, funnel through like what is the best way to go and how to apply for something.
So are there any more EDA programs that you wanted to go through, or New Jersey programs?
At this time, that's all we approved yesterday that would be helpful to small business owners. There's some entrepreneur program that was approved, but that's for tech and life sciences, and it's for the investors as well. So it's more of a guarantee, and we're tweaking our guarantees as well. But loan to lenders are at our next board meeting. Loan to lenders is essentially for CDFIs, again, to be able to get additional capital at 0% interest rate to lend out to people. So when I say CDFIs should be releasing products, they definitely should be.
Does anyone else have questions? We'll have our federal person will be joining us in about 4 minutes, so we can have a little more conversation, questions, etc.
Okay, so I just got the answer for retail, and yes, it's included.
Okay.
Okay.
I just have one other small question. That's great about the retail. I saw something about, and maybe we already mentioned this, a small business emergency assistance guarantee.
Yes, so we expanded our guarantee program, but that's through the, they're called Premier Lenders. So all the banks that we have partnerships with and the CDFIs, we basically took a first loss position with them. So we're covering more of their debt. So they should basically be able to help take on some riskier loans is what we're doing.
So that comes under that third one you mentioned with the CDFIs.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
It's a little bit, it's carved out a little bit differently because it's a different mechanism. So we created one that goes specifically to the CDFI. Our relationship would be with them directly. But then that one that you just mentioned, that's with the applicant would actually apply but they're utilizing the relationship from the CDFI or the Premier Banker, and we're coming in and just backing the loan a little bit more to make the bank and CDFI feel comfortable in doing it. So it's like two different mechanisms.
Got it. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question. This is not an actual EDA thing. It's more in whether you even know from a legislative thing. They passed the legislation that froze foreclosures and evictions for residential. Is there any thought about doing it for commercial?
I think there's a thought about everything. I mean, like, there's so much that's happening. Like I say, like, and from what my personal experience has just been, it's like understanding the federal side first before we get to the state side has been a challenge, right? So it's like, where's the communication coming from? And sometimes it's just, okay, we don't want to keep recreating the wheel. If this is going to cover that, we want to fill in the gaps. And that's what we've just been trying to do. So, we're, like I said, it literally changes every day what our focus is going to be and how we're going to do things, and what initiative it's going to be and where we should put our manpower. But it's definitely something that's on everybody's radar. I know that doesn't really, give you a solid answer, but it's being looked at.
Okay.
Christina, this is Bob Zuckerman. I'm the president of Downtown New Jersey. Thank you so much for all your information.
Yeah.
This morning. I would just want to jump on Courtney's point that it really is essential that there be some kind of commercial eviction ban during this period. It's you have some landlords that are very flexible and are willing to work with their commercial tenants, but you have others. I've already heard of some cases that they're not. So, it's our belief that, I don't think anyone would disagree with this on the call, that there's no one who should lose their space, their storefront, because during this period, this crisis period.
No, I agree. So can I ask, does anyone have documentation or what are the numbers? Are people experiencing this now currently? Does anybody know as far as what's really the current?
I've been on with a lot of my landlords, and mostly they're working with their tenants at this point because they also know they're not going to evict. They don't want people out because they're probably not getting them back. Well, there'll be enough vacancies after this as it is. So what I'm finding is the landlords are working with the tenants, the ones that I've spoken to. They're coming up with plans and talking to them about how to do it.
Okay.
Hi there, this is Erika Calderon with Senator Menendez's office.
Okay.
Hi there. So I do want to sort of jump on this to Christina's point. We are looking at everything. Obviously, the landscape is very fluid. A month ago, no one would have considered doing direct payments to consumers, and that's what we just passed in the Senate. So that's something that we're taking a look at. The Senator Menendez is currently working on a letter to banking regulators, asking them to do everything in their power to encourage banks to provide relief to small business owners, including through commercial loans. And if they have done everything already in their power, we're asking them what they need from Congress, if they need new laws in order to help small businesses more.
And I think this is a great transition, Christina, unless you have any more from the state side, to Erika to talk about what's going on at the Fed.
No, and I will just kind of highlight really fast, Erika, if you know anybody who is looking to put some funds towards a grant program, EDA is actually eligible to take in those dollars to contribute towards our small business emergency grant. So I'm happy to talk to you if there's anybody you're coming across that's interested or looking for ways to kind of contribute towards the state. Okay.
Yeah, great. I would like to connect with you offline about that.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask Christina one last question?
Yeah, sure, Linda.
Christina, just in the conversations of what the governor deems essential and non-essential, are you guys involved in those conversations? And I'll give just the example of my downtown in Patterson. According to his list of businesses that can be open, what we have left closed in downtown are just a couple of clothing stores, and if they follow the same guidelines as, for example, a cell phone store, why can't they also be open?
So I am not part of those conversations. That's above my pay grade. And, unfortunately, I'm not looped into those type of high level conversations, but that's something I can take back to my senior leadership, though, to kind of put on the radar. I definitely think that there's concerns over, and not just that, the communication too, as far as like, am I open, am I not open? And I think there was some vagueness about that. So hopefully we can get some of those issues addressed too. And again, if you are a business specifically, they should go on that portal. That portal, I keep directing you back to the portal because there is FAQs that say, if I am this business, should I be open? If I am this, or do I do this? And if a person needs a direct answer from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., they can speak to somebody directly through that chat bot too. So it's a helpful
portal. That portal, the link to it is also on our resource page, and it's the top thing, I think, under New Jersey informational resources. And I even wrote a little note. I'm like, this is a great catch-all FAQ to answer all your questions. So maybe I'll bold it and highlight it in red too.
Yeah.
Courtney,
Thank
Courtney,
you.
with that said, I mean, part of the challenge is putting this out there for, some of us in smaller towns with no bids. So is it okay to put the link to your resource page in emails to our small businesses? And
oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's definitely more geared towards you guys. I've already gotten comments that, the legislative summary is too wonky. And I'm just like, I'm not good at dumbing things down, but there are definitely resources. And particularly if you go down to, I put up some of like Facebook grants and Yelp and blah, blah, blah. And they should be looking at those.
Yeah, it's really awesome. So I would love to be able to send that out. And then I'm probably going to schedule a call to go through that with,
Great.
I can do that with my small businesses. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
Question for Christina.
Yeah.
Are there any incentives for people that want to donate to support the effort for small business relief?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to look at that. I mean, let me add that to my list. But that's a really
interesting.
Good type of like a tax credit situation.
Tax credit.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, let me add that. Thank you.
I'll say I've already, seen this online that there are people like, I get my whatever from the federal government, my $500, and I don't need that $500, and I might just donate it to something else. And I think there is that type of conversation that people are having. So.
Okay, that's good. I added that.
Christina?
Yes.
I have a question. It's Robin from Flemington, New Jersey.
Oh, hi. Yeah.
Hi. So, so we've heard from people who had Sandy funds that some people said you should not jump to make any decisions and you should wait because I guess in the past the order of whether you got a grant or a loan first impacted you.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is with the NJEDA loans, do that first right away, but will it impact you with other programs?
So we learned through Sandy ourselves because we're still actually administrating some of those loans. And internally, we're adjusting our portfolio to be able to help those recipients too. But if you do pursue an EDA loan, it could impact your SBA funding. And honestly, you shouldn't be pursuing a loan from EDA and SBA. I think that would be highly like over leveraging yourself. But for some people, like for us, it's not going to be impacted. If you decided to go with SBA, file an application, then see if you get approved for EDA, we're not going to hold that against you because again, our rate's going to be 0% interest. Theirs is 3.75. So it's like, what's going to be the best option for you? But again, ours is kind of limited. So it's all going to be about timing and what you can qualify for. So I don't know if that's like if you get approved, then obviously it's going to impact that SBA application. But the grant shouldn't impact regardless. It's a $1,000 grant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is helpful. And the last piece for our businesses, and we do have very small boutique clothing stores who would be very happy to open and follow some practices. But for us, we find there's a lot of confusion about delivery mechanisms because, you know, our pet store is open and delivering and our food stores are opening and delivering, and there are other people who would like to deliver product, but they can't go in and out of their stores. So I think this thing about a delivery mechanism so people can function if they have to be closed, it would be helpful to have more help with that.
So direction as far as can they be open but just do their own delivery options, not being open to the public, essentially, is what you're saying, right?
That would really help because they either have to, you know, people are still buying things. We've been able to transition to a virtual downtown, but only some people can deliver.
Gotcha.
So, you know, if you have your craft kits at home and you can put them together and people are buying them or they're buying sweaters, whatever it is, it's more that the store could be closed, but the person could still sell.
So can it be done through curbside pickup too? I mean, so it's kind of, you're closed to public, but you could come out and deliver that. I mean, I've just seen some stores do that.
They're doing that in Jersey City. The question is whether they're really allowed to be doing that.
I know. And
right.
I don't have that answer. I'm sorry. So maybe I don't.
Well, it's not allowed really. The spirit is to discourage people from going to their stores. But I think if there were more delivery services, you know, local delivery services that could deliver goods for a downtown, that would really help.
Oh, I
see. Table this. Erika was very nice. I got her on very late day yesterday, and I want to make sure she has time to talk about the Fed. So let's come back to state stuff and all that, and let Erika jump in. But good question. Thank you. Okay, Erika.
There. Thanks for the introduction, Courtney, and I'm glad to be on this, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Erika Calderon. I'm Senator Menendez's legislative assistant in small business issues. So I'm here to talk about the stimulus bill, any upcoming legislation we might be working on, or any initiatives the Senator is taking. So if you guys have any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to chat about it.
Erika, could you start with maybe an overview of the package and what's in there?
Right, sorry. So the package includes, as I'm sure Christina already talked about, $349 billion in a new SBA forgivable loan. So the idea behind this was to use something, as you guys already know, like this is unprecedented, and even right now the SBA website is overwhelmed. So the idea was to use a mechanism that already exists through private means to hopefully speed this along. So it's using existing SBA 7A loans will be the program. The Senator was pushing for grants, just straight money as opposed to loans, but this is what we were able to get. The good thing about these loans is that loan proceeds that are used towards payroll expenses, rent, utilities, and mortgage interest payments, that portion of the loan will be forgiven. And one of the purposes of these loans is to retain as many employees as possible. So even if your doors are shuttered and you can't open because of the very necessary social distancing protocols, you could still retain your employees and pay them because that part of the loan will be forgivable. And for anyone who has SBA loans for 6 months, SBA loans that are not COVID related, so if you took them out before January 31st, I think is the date, the SBA will be making those payments for 6 months. So if you have any current loans, non-COVID related, SBA will be making those payments for 6 months. Going back to the new SBA 7A loans known as the Paycheck Protection Program, once you make those the application through an SBA approved lender, if you go to the SBA website, and hopefully it's working, I'm trying to get in contact with them to see what they need from us in order to be able to manage this volume that they're currently experiencing. But there is a lender's match page, and if you go onto SBA.gov and find their lender's match page, you'll be able to find the closest SBA approved lender to you. So once this bill passes the House and is signed into law by the President, please reach out to these SBA approved lenders, and you'll be making your application through there. Small businesses with 500 or fewer employees will be able to apply for these loans. If you are a restaurant or a hotel that has several locations, as long as each location has 500 or fewer employees, you still qualify. Nonprofits with 500 or fewer employees also qualify. The payments for these loans will be deferred from 6 months up to a year. And again, I think it's just important to emphasize any proceeds that are used for payroll, and by payroll, I mean healthcare expenses, wages, commissions, salary, paid leave, paid sick leave, family leave, any of that, any of the loan proceeds used towards payroll costs, those will be forgiven. So you will be able to retain your team. Because at the end of the day, the senator, again, like, he wanted grants, but he understands that you do not need to be saddled with debt at the end of this. And he wants to make sure that at the end of wherever we're hopefully ready to open business again, that New Jersey small businesses are still around to open their doors. So that's the SBA 7A loan part. I talked a little bit about the SBA debt relief. You have current SBA loans. There's also, for immediate emergency, there's $10,000 grants that will be approved through the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So if you go, again, like, once this bill is passed into law, SBA should be setting up a website through their EIDL program where to apply for these $10,000 grants. And that's just those proceeds will be used for, like, immediate expenses, because April 1st is coming along, and I'm sure you have a lot of bills due. And then I think those are the major components of the bill. Also, for the amount of the SBA loan, that will be calculated at 2.5 times your average monthly payroll cost. And sorry, I just saw that. Just to clarify, you can get EIDL grants and the SBA Paycheck Protection Program, so people can apply for both. And that's just a quick overview of what was in the stimulus package.
I want to ask a few clarifying questions as I was doing. So you said the loans, the non-COVID related loans before January 31st, it says, you said SBA is making the payments for 6 months, or they?
So that's the debt relief portion of it. So SBA, small businesses who have existing SBA loans that were taken out before all this, SBA will be making the payments for 6 months. So
basically you're forgiven of your payments
for 6 months.
Okay, that's neat. Let's see. So I just had an idea, a thought, because you were saying the payroll portions, I think it was payrolls, utilities, and a few other things, are forgivable.
Right.
So if people really want to play the game, they could go for the SBA loan and pay for those things with that, and then go for EDA's 0% loan for other stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
if you want to play the game.
I mean, that seems like a possibility. The senator, this was about a week ago, he also introduced a bill trying to make the emergency economic disaster loans to be 0%. Because again, like, this is no fault of anyone, but yeah, if there's options to finance other issues at 0% loans and then get your payroll costs through forgivable loans, that might be an option to look into.
Yeah, complicated, but so we have a couple of questions up here. Let me let's see. Okay, so you already answered that. So many of our businesses are sole proprietors or LLCs that don't have employees, myself included. Are these business owners eligible
Yes.
without having payroll?
Yes.
Good. And then Bob has a question for existing SBA loans to be forgiven for 6 months. Is there an application that needs to be completed, or is just this automatic?
I actually don't know about that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'd have to get back to you.
Are nonprofits eligible for the
Yes.
grants? Okay.
As long as 500 employees or less.
Okay. And these are all means tested, though. You have to show that you've lost income, or no?
You have to certify, but at this point, everyone's pretty much, sorry, 1 second. You have to self-certify. So it's just mostly saying you have experienced economic impact because of the COVID-19.
Okay.
And sort of, I know I've been getting a lot of like questions from, I've been having a lot of conversation with small business owners in New Jersey. And one of the questions I always get is like, what is the timeline? And unfortunately, I don't have a specific answer to that, but the way the bill is written, it's trying to expedite this. So for the SBA approved lenders, when you make your application, it really is no need to, so the SBA approved lender is incentivized to make this as quick as possible and to approve as quick as possible, because the government is guaranteeing 100% of the loan proceeds. So there's really no underwriting taking place, because it doesn't matter if what your credit score is or anything else, just because the government is taking care of, is 100% guaranteeing 100% of the loan proceeds.
Okay. Sorry, guys, I'm just taking notes. I'm sure you can hear me clacking away. I'm just seeing if there's other.
Independent contractors are also eligible.
Oh, wow.
Great.
So I'm also reading.
Letter 1099, right? You're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yay.
That's important because the state didn't allow 1099s to be eligible.
Christina or Erika, I know you deal more with small businesses. Can you provide any updates on the portion of the bill regarding municipal support?
Right, so as I'm sure you all know, the senator has been really fighting for this. Unfortunately, it wasn't included, but it wasn't for lack of trying. The senator was trying to get the Federal Reserve to buy municipal bonds to help with this effort at the local level. Unfortunately, it wasn't included. We even had a couple of Republican support, but it wasn't able to be included in this package.
I thought there was something. There was money for
municipal bonds.
Not bonds, but there was municipal, like I got to get on the website to see what I wrote.
I'm sorry. I just do banking and small business, so I'm not sure about. Okay. But he was fighting for making sure the Federal Reserve would be able to pay for or buy municipal bonds, allowing small governments to fund the COVID
to fund small businesses. Okay.
Yeah. And then I guess going back to like the commercial loan issue, this is the third coronavirus package we've done. I assume as everything progresses and honestly the cases get worse and we get more cases, there will probably likely be another one, which is why I'm saying that the senator is working on this letter to the banking regulators. We're still looking at other issues. Public housing wasn't really addressed in this package, so more than likely there will be another one unless things miraculously get better.
Yeah, I was on a call with American Planning Association yesterday, and they were saying, this isn't really stimulus. This is more like hold the line, and then there might be a subsequent stimulus package similar to what we had back in 2008 9, maybe with infrastructure.
Right.
Maybe we could get a tunnel built with that.
So I could say this, I am not a transportation person, but even I know about the tunnel. The senator is always bringing this up, and he's like, can we, anything that comes up, can we get this done? So maybe, who knows?
Okay. Does anybody have, guys, if you want to pop on and unmute and just ask questions yourself, that's perfectly fine.
And then I think I have a question here from Stuart that says, on the, do you have a list of SBA lenders in the state? If you go to the SBA website, there is a lenders match page. Let me see if I can pull up the, give me one second, if I could pull up the link. So it's sba.gov. Can I put this somewhere, Courtney?
Yeah, you can put it in the chat.
Okay, I'll put
and then
that
and then I'll copy it into my notes for everybody for later.
Okay. So I'll just put the link. Here's the link to. If everyone would just, if you could just go there, assuming that the site works. Again, this is all very frustrating. I'm trying to make calls into the SBA to see what they need or how we can figure out this for them to be able to handle this loan volume. But they should be able to match you with a lender near you. Yeah, and if anyone else has
Erika, I have a question. I actually received a text message from a small business owner as I've been on here. But one question is the 8-week grant to keep staff on payroll. When does that start? And then the second question is, if we're still shut down after 8 weeks, do the employees go back on unemployment? And if they're currently on unemployment, do they just call and stop it and tell them they were rehired?
So on the timeline, first the bill has to be passed into law. So the House is voting on it today, I think. Then the president has to sign it, and then from there, the SBA has to get this into their SBA approved lenders. So I'm not exactly sure about the timeline. We're trying to expedite this as soon as possible. But for unemployment, the idea is to get them off and get your employees back onto your payroll. And if at 8 weeks we haven't passed another like an extension or another stimulus package, they would have to be back on unemployment. But the idea, honestly, if at 8 weeks we're still dealing with this, I assume we have to do something.
Yeah, I think we'll have
Congress.
If it's 8 weeks and we're still dealing with this, we might have bigger issues on our hands.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Any other questions from people?
Hi, I have a question. This is Deborah. I'm on the board of South Orange Willow Center Alliance and also a business owner. For one question I've been getting from a lot of business owners around the country, especially in New Jersey, is that if you're an S Corp or a C Corp owner, you don't qualify for unemployment in New Jersey unless you dissolve your business. And haven't seen anything in the legislation expanding employment to include us as well with the state. So is there any movement within either the state of New Jersey or in federal legislation that will qualify us business owners to receive unemployment?
Sorry, not at this point that I'm aware of. Something that we could definitely take a look at, because I have heard from small business owners that they also want to qualify, because obviously if your business, if you have to close your business doors, you still need to be able to make your rent and feed yourself. But that's something I could definitely take a look at. But not that I'm aware of. It wasn't included in this package.
Thank you. But I do want to also say thank you, Senator Menendez. A lot of 1099 and self-employed are very excited that unemployment has now been extended to them because they also did not qualify in New Jersey. So thank you for that.
Right. And when I say this, that's just like for the SBA 7A forgivable loans. So you could use those proceeds. But yes. And then just to reiterate the list of forgivable items, it's payroll, which again includes wages, paid leave, sick leave, paid family leave, and then it also includes utilities, rent payments, and mortgage interest payments. And yes, to put out there, because I'm not sure if anyone really has this problem. The wage is capped like at $100,000, so you can't pay someone more than $100,000 in wages, not paid leave or anything like that, but specifically their salary can't be $100,000. Which I don't know many small businesses who have that problem, but I just thought to throw it out there. And again, this is just like the first package that has really dealt with small businesses in a way. But again, like we anticipate there'd be another one. The senator's already asking, what are we going to do? So please note this is not it, at least not from the senator's perspective. We're working on other issues. Again, the senator's trying to send that letter to the financial regulators. We're looking at other issues, so hopefully we'll be able to get more help, because I don't know how we're at unprecedented times, and he wants Congress to rise to the challenge.
So a couple of questions. I took a lot of notes, and I'm not sure I got it all right. Is there going to be like a nice FAQ one-pager or something that I can share?
I put something together with for the senator. I could send that to you.
Wonderful, thank you. And everything I've read from the news is that we expect Congress to pass this today. Is there any concern that the president will not sign it?
You never know. I'm never comfortable trying to figure out what he's going to do. I can't imagine.
Okay.
I just can't imagine he would not sign it. I haven't heard any reports or anything otherwise, so hopefully he'll sign this.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have any questions for Erika or Christina? All right, if not, Erika, I know your time is very tight and you're very busy. You're welcome to bounce off. Guys, I'm happy to keep this open if we want to have some of those discussions, side discussions, like should bids actually go for this grant, and if they're competing against their own businesses and things like that. Up to you all, or we can close it. Thank you, Erika.
Of course, and then I'll send you this this FAQ that I put together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for participating. I'm sure all of my participants are thanking you as well, and Christina, both of you.
Sure. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Courtney, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Carol.
Hi. I just want to tell you the information that you have been sending out is wonderful. And the people, have been commenting about it. Now, today, are you going to do this update today, or will it be Monday?
I will try to do it today. I know I do have another business thing at like 2 or something, another Zoom. But I will try to get it today. It might not be till late today. But yeah, hopefully I can get something out today, or even if I get it out over the weekend, I'll get it out over the weekend.
Okay. And then I had 2 other questions. They were talking about, the grants, you can't do a 501c6. So that means if the SID is a 501c6, it's like the chamber, they can't apply for grants. Is that correct?
For the state grant, yeah, you would not be eligible.
Okay.
I did get a response.
Isn't that the lobbying nonprofit? Which I don't imagine that a SID would be that anyway.
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest with you.
Courtney?
Yeah.
The Westfield, downtown Westfield is a 501c6.
Oh.
No, I'm not kidding. That's Nancy Adams on FaceTime. She couldn't get registered, so she's been listening to the whole thing on FaceTime. But no, they registered years ago as a 501c6, which is akin to a chamber of commerce. I'm not sure why.
And I know in Englewood, the SID registered as 501c6. I recommended a 501c3, but they said no.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Crazy.
I did get one answer too. Someone had asked if they have to certify they're not going to lay off for the grant, and yes, you will have to certify that to be eligible.
Okay. I'll have to find that in my notes.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. All right, any other questions, things y'all want to discuss?
I have a question about state. Is there any consideration being given to possible commercial property tax relief?
So I know that's come up. It's being looked at, but I mean, it's really going to be based on the municipalities too. So I don't really have an answer, but I know that's something that some of the cities are getting a little concerned about as well. But
relief for property tax has to be through the state.
Right.
The state has to set it up so that the municipalities can do it.
Yeah. Everybody hear that from Nancy? She was saying that relief for property taxes has to be done through the state. They have to create some kind of mechanism that would allow municipalities to do that. I've heard
so a municipality can't do it on its own until the state does something.
I've heard that as well.
Exactly.
I believe that is.
And that's important. That's going to be really important because we have a virtual town hall in downtown Summit. And part of that is what we're talking about. You know, the property owners are already going to their lenders to get relief. Tenants are going to get relief from their property owners. So ultimately,
Yeah, it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
I know municipalities, even if there were a mechanism, are concerned because they have commitments to the school system and making payroll there. So that even if there were a mechanism created by the state to have some kind of commercial property tax relief, they need that revenue coming in to pay the schools.
Yeah, but they need to be able to do possible deferments.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, would be a 3-month, 6-month deferment, something along those lines.
Right. Has anybody, we heard from one bid manager that there was some concern from a hearing that there was a property owner or two that were already talking about not paying their SID assessment. Has anyone else heard that?
Not yet.
I'm sorry, you said a property owner said they weren't going to pay?
That's what we heard, yeah. Or they feel that they shouldn't have to pay now.
Or that they shouldn't have to pay, okay.
Right.
Which is the exact opposite of the most downtown districts getting through this.
Absolutely. I mean, the bids are more essential than ever as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob.
We expect
Chris Bernardo. I actually have a lot of stakeholders who are more enthusiastic now to actually be a part of the SID because of the essential nature of what we're doing. One of the complications that we're seeing in Newark and I think in Jersey City, though, will be the passage of budgets because, normal legislative activity is now slowed down. And I think it's going to be very important for us to advocate as a group to make sure municipalities understand it's important to get budgets passed and get, and keep funding flowing to the business improvement districts. That's definitely an issue that we're seeing emerge in Newark, where none of the SID budgets for this year are yet approved. And there's a lot of SIDs that are going to come into a budget crunch sometime around May or June, because not all SIDs have surpluses to rely on.
Sure.
So I think that's going to become a real issue mid-year to make sure that municipalities understand how important it is to even if we have to in some way create an emergency situation where municipalities just sort of streamline the process and get these budgets to first reading and approved. For those cities that have multiple SIDs, the budget process is a little bit more complicated because they typically don't proffer the budgets simultaneously. They spread them out over the course of several months. That's the way it goes in Newark. That's the way it happens in Jersey City. So it's going to be really important, I think, to come up with a different method this year to get these budgets done.
And so there is, I do want to say, there is $150 billion in state and local government stabilization fund in the federal package. And what I understand from, and I think Erika, just because she deals with small businesses, she didn't know as much. So how that plays out and what it means, but my understanding is that for there's like, I forget, 500 million each state is just getting, and then it's population based for the funds after that. And, but how that all trickles down, I don't know, but presumably that would be used for some of these budget holes for the municipalities.
Yeah, and that sort of also speaks to the idea of whether or not bids should be applying for these loans. In all likelihood, it's probably not appropriate because bids technically already have a funding mechanism that's guaranteed. Once our budgets are approved, the municipality is legally obligated to pay out those funds. So really the relief that we would be looking for is on the municipality side and making sure that they have the funds needed to fill any of those gaps, as you said, Courtney.
Yeah.
Chris, it's Stuart, and I completely agree with you. The situation about the SIDS applying is very difficult, but also the fact of the slowdown of the budgets is crucial. I mean, this is something that Courtney and DNJ really need to be on top of and get a message out there somehow to our local government officials of how important our SIDS are today and the roles we're playing in the community. And slowing down our budget process would just be devastating to the rebirth of all of our retail once we come back out of this.
Yeah,
I'm in Maplewood. I mean, to the extent that me and the South Orange and Maplewood people, I mean, we've been very, very present, and I'm sure you all have, and talking to our elected officials. So to the extent we can demonstrate by our actions how important we are. I mean, we are the front line to a lot of our small businesses and digesting this information and giving it out to them. So I think, it's incumbent on all of us to just, really stay very present. And even though we're all working on computers on our desks, so that way, I know we are all doing it, but it's almost like a little self-promotion of how hard you are working is probably warranted in these times, even though you typically would not do that.
Has anyone considered, and our board is looking at doing this, we introduced our budget at the end of January, but obviously the budget that we put forward included a lot of things that, given everything that's happened, to kind of allocate those funds and, move things around. So we're looking at actually reintroducing our budget. Has anyone else taken a look at that?
No, I mean, Stuart, again, what we've done in our budget, if you will, the buckets, we've been able to move things around in our retail marketing programs and repurpose those dollars. So it still stays within the budget category, but we're just repurposing them. We just get board approval to recategorize them.
If I can make a point to what Chris's comment, I think another challenge will be is, at least in Patterson, in the form of government that we have, you have the council members battling with the administration on, providing property tax relief to, property owners and maybe tax deferment payments. So the challenge, at least I will face, is getting the council to even consider, passing a budget that will, have this assessment payment burden onto the property owner, although the necessity of it. But, we're going to be asking this in the middle of a conversation where they're fighting the administration on tax deferment payments.
Orlando, you're 100% correct. And I think, again, Courtney, this may be something that DNJ, we need to have a policy conversation with, or maybe do a forum on how we can help work with our elected officials, as we've done in the past, and keep them recognizing the fact that their roles as government officials and our roles as improvement districts, as not-for-profits, if you will, and a public-private partnership are completely different. And we're getting more information out there. We are on the front lines in a different way than they are. And that message needs to somehow get across. I don't know how to do it just yet, but I think the conversation needs to take place rapidly.
We'll send a thing around to the board for volunteers to participate.
This is Graham. I'd like to add that I'm seeing 3 things happening now that bids are doing to demonstrate their value, and this is going to help make the case for continued funding. One is just the strategic communications and getting the message out on local impact plus local solutions. So the information that's coming out today, for example, just to distribute that to your people and make sure that everybody's copied in who should see it, the work that you're doing. Locally, I saw a bid actually creating their own fund. And it was crowdsourcing that they were asking for people to contribute, and then they were administering local help grants to small businesses. And I thought that was just a great way of taking leadership in the community. So it's purely local. And the third one I'm looking at is a report that came out pre-coronavirus, which is from International Economic Development Corporation, IEDC, on disaster recovery. That it's generic. It looks at things like, what happened after hurricanes and such. This is a 300-page report, but it talks about creating public-private partnerships, partnering with federal agencies, being a conduit for the funds, and helping people walk through the system because it's complex and confusing to navigate the federal system, for example. So this 300-page document is a toolkit for economic recovery. And this could be a really good template for bids to take local leadership, things like setting up a resource center and having representation from different agencies physically located in your community. So some really good ideas in there. So I'd encourage folks to take a look at this, and I could provide that IEDC Toolkit for Economic Recovery.
Yeah, please send that to me, Graham, and I'll get that in a link to that in our notes. I mean, I think that's something DNJ can look at, and we can do some like best practices, FAQ or whatever on this.
It's good stuff,
but I think
but
that's a little bit of what Mark
looking through it to pull out the stuff that's more relevant. A lot of it is how to prepare, and obviously we're past that point.
Yeah. And I don't know if Marta's still on the phone. She's going to get into a little of some of these things on our webinar on the 17th. I don't know if you want to give a teaser, Marta, if you're still there. She might be off.
Graham, I have a question. You mentioned the bid who set up the crowdsourcing. Do you remember which bid that was?
It's called Mount Airy Bid in Philadelphia.
Okay, thank you.
And what I'm going to do is find out from them what kind of results they got, how much they brought in, and
their allocation basis is criteria is what I'm interested in. We talked about it at length.
Sure.
It's so fraught with so many issues, we walked away from it.
Okay, sure, I'll find out.
I'd be curious. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think it depends on your capacity and your size as a bid. I think some of the smaller bids won't have the human resources to facilitate such a thing, but some of the bigger ones.
Yeah, so in Westfield, they've done a We Love Local funding for the small businesses. They have a general application. It's through the Westfield United Fund. And they just launched kind of a social media campaign to have people contribute, and there was some matching funds, but they're using an organization that was already a local organization that had sort of a grant review process.
Yeah.
We're looking at a similar idea in Fanwood. We have a local organization called the Fanwood Community Foundation. So in some cases, if you don't have capacity to do loan review and loan administration, you might have an organization locally that could partner with you for that effort.
Yeah. On that issue of crowdfunding, I know one of the municipalities I'm working with is doing that, and we're just supporting it. As somebody mentioned, the logistics of it, doing it internally yourself and becoming a loan program is very, very difficult. But one of the things we actually just did in another town, and maybe anybody can do it too, is that we're buying gift cards from all of our food eateries, and that this way we're giving them cash in pocket right away. And then we're distributing those gift cards to all of the organizations that are the first responders, because they have to buy meals anyhow. So we're taking our dollars that were associated with our retail programs that we're going to put together. Instead of doing those, on the street shopping programs, we're taking the funding from those two programs that we just right now are working with, and putting that back into buying the gift cards, like I said, from the actual retailers that are, the food services that are available, and then giving them to the first responder teams. We have about 75 people in one town that's doing that, what we're doing with right now. And we're putting about $30,000 into the gift card program. So I think it's something that you can do.
Who's buying them, Stuart? Who's the actual purchaser?
The actual purchaser is the improvement district. We're buying them directly. We're then getting them into one location, and then we're handing them back out to the 5 different resources that are available, that are obviously the first responders, and then going through it then.
And which bid is this, Stuart?
This is Fort Lee.
I want to highlight it.
Fort Lee. Fort Lee.
Stuart, how do you decide which restaurants to buy the gift cards from?
Well,
you buy an equal amount?
Ryan, that was the best. That was the thing we were, I guess, trying to figure out. And what we did is we're culling all the restaurants that are actually open and delivering. And then from that, we're culling from them the actual amount of the ones who actually want to participate. And then we're taking the $30,000, if you will, and dividing it up equally, and we're buying those cards equally from each particular business, and then we're handing them out and indiscriminately or discriminately, whatever, just on our own basis to all the 75 people. Whether they use them or not is up to them, but the purchase has already been made on an equalized basis. So say if there was 100 stores, they each got $3,000 worth of gift cards.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this smaller bid with a smaller budget. We're doing the gift cards, and we had the stores sign on, the ones that were open. And we're saying buy a $25 gift certificate for $15, and we're supplementing the difference in the cost to the business. So that's just another way of handling that. And we're also purchasing gift cards for the seniors in that community who are in the senior housing.
We're doing something similar in Newark, but we're doing a voucher program for senior citizens and those earning less than $50,000 a year. But we're raising money privately, in addition to some SID contribution toward it, but we're raising more money privately to go into a fund. We're calling it a community support fund. And those vouchers will be used for essential purchases, things like childcare items, food, and basic household necessities. So it's really a voucher. It's kind of like a different take on a downtown dollars type program. It's a voucher system.
One of the other things we're working
So real quick, hold on. Which Newark bid is doing that, or is that just Newark in general?
The Mount Prospect Partnership and also the Ironbound bid. We're both doing a similar program.
I want to get all these good things out and give you all big hurrahs. Beth, which SID was yours?
Well, that was the Springfield Community Partnership. And also one of the things we've started in Livingston is the board is meeting twice a week via Zoom, and we're developing a plan because the big thing's going to happen is when everybody comes back. We're being optimistic, but when they come back, it's going to be difficult, and we feel we have to have a plan in place to help everybody. So that's one of the things we're working on right now. With getting everything out to everybody now, with getting all the information, with trying to promote all the businesses that are open, but also we feel it's very important because when they come back, we don't know how many businesses we're going to lose. If we can get on top of it and try to help the businesses once they do open, it's going to be important.
Yeah, Beth, that's great. I mean, if you have any ideas or plans that you can share with us all, that would be super. I know we've been meeting with our boards via Zoom like once a week now.
Yeah.
Because things are moving so quickly, just to get them to make these decisions and put plans in place and start, making some changes to what we currently are doing. So thanks so much.
By the way, I think now I'm going to take volunteers. It doesn't just have to be our board members for this kind of best practices thing that we're going to work on. Is there anyone on this call that wants to volunteer to be on the committee?
Sure, I will.
Stuart.
Food also.
I know Chris will too.
Chris is being voluntold.
Hey, Courtney, it's Jeff. I've been doing it anyway, so I'll just keep doing it.
Okay.
Courtney, you can count me in too.
Who's Orlando? Was that our? Okay. Great. Thank you, guys.
Well,
We
thank
call
you.
it like a best practices committee.
Thanks for doing this, Courtney.
No problem.
This is great. This is wonderful.
And Courtney, you'll loop me in, of course.
Yes.
I'm happy to participate in this as well.
Okay. You get stuck participating in everything as president.
I know.
It's really funny because he's like, what's the time commitment to this? And then all hell broke loose.
Not much more than it was as a board. Yeah. I did not know there would be, unlike the president, I did not know there would be.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to jump off. I thank you, everyone. Be safe and have an enjoyable weekend.
Thank you for all of this. This is wonderful.
All right. I thank you
Thanks,
all for participating. Send me good things that are happening so I can share them. Send me questions. Send me whatever you need to send me, and I'll work on it.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thanks,
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks. Thanks, Nancy. I saved by the